Before we begin, just a quick disclaimer. You might encounter strong language. Whoopsie! We also want to be clear that the things we say are our opinions and should no way be taken as medical, health, or dietary advice. We also are aware that we have certain privileged experiences and therefore we are not able to be representative and we don't even aim to be representative of all the things that people have lived and felt that we have not.
I'm fat and I often crave pizza. So,
हाँ मतलब who doesn't? Yeah. I'm fat and I live in terror of becoming gluten intolerant. Because
Terrifying.
bro, if I have to give up bread, I might as well die.
oh my god, terrifying.
So,
I'm fat and I find filling my mouth with chocolate so comforting. Like, not just chocolate, but the whole mouth full of it. So,
stop saying filling my mouth on the podcast, Pallavi. I'm fat, but I don't like sweets. So,
lucky bum.
listen. Potatoes.
God, I love sweets. Anyway, but I'm fat and I love fried stuff also, like all that crunchy, munchy fried chicken or fish and chips. And so,
Maybe I shouldn't have been hungry when we did this recording.
yeah.
I'm fat, and yes, please, I will have another helping. So,
Especially if it's mashed potatoes.
French fries.
Welcome to Fatso, the podcast where we talk about the joys and sorrows of being fat women in India, heavy on the joy. I'm Pallavi.
And I'm Ameya. And today we'll be talking about food. Because fat people, you can't talk about fat people without talking about food, right? I mean, it's like they're like surgically attached. Never mind that fat people are the people who eat the least.
Oh my God.
Never mind that fat people are the people who constantly eating smaller helpings, watching what's on their plate, trying to eat healthy. Never mind that. You look at a fat person, you just assume they have unhealthy eating habits. You look at a fat person, you're like, oh God, you're stuffing your face with pizza. Like, sometimes I'm just like, bitches, I'm going to get a burger and fries and sit here in public and eat it without apologizing for it because it's just food. We all like food. Like, what the fuck? And people act like you're going to devour everything in sight like you're some kind of fucking vacuum cleaner. And honestly, as somebody who has been like depriving myself of food for so many years, it is just fucking unfair.
I agree.
Okay, and run.
Really? Is that all?
There might be more, but you know.
Okay, I have a feeling, people, that we're going to have a few rants on this one because that just ended too soon. But anyways, so you know me, and you know that I'm big on the science of this whole food thing, right? Because given our crazy relationship with food and given the fact that I've observed these same things, I have skinny friends who eat a lot more than me.
Fuck, I hate them.
And like, for example, my ex-brother-in-law, he used to eat all the rubbish in the world. All the rubbish in the world that I was forbidden to eat.
Meh. It is not rubbish.
Oh, for what I mean is,
I know junk
all
food.
the potato
but like,
chips
you
and
know,
all
like,
the
why
Coke
do we act
and...
like the food that makes us happy is rubbish? Why do we call it rubbish? We just stop calling it rubbish. Reclaim rubbish. Okay, sorry.
There, see, I told you. Would you like to run some more, darling?
No, stop.
Because I'm not going to be able to get on with my bit of the episode.
Zip.
Okay, but anyways, and I would be like, if he was that kind of person that if you made him do a side profile, like he'd vanish, like that thing, that kind of person, okay? But he'd eat everything under the sun. He'd eat double. So you're talking about getting a burger and Coke and fries, and he'd go and get 2 burgers and 2 fries, and he'd be all right.
I have been known to do that.
Yeah, but then see what happens to us, no? And he still vanishes when he
Fair
goes
point.
into profile mode.
Metabolism, man.
Exactly. So, therefore, the science is very important. Now, before I say this, I must say that I have taken out the bits and pieces of the science that make sense to me from Health at Every Size by Linda Bacon and from The Obesity Code by Jason Fung. But please don't take this as the guidelines because this is just to say, these are the interesting bits. And I'm sure they will be interesting to everybody who's listening. And now please do go and read and research and read, more papers after this. So I'm going to read out just because if I spend too much time on this, I'm going to get an ass whooping from Ameya, who is also doing our editing these days. So,
Correct.
So Linda Bacon in Health at Every Size, she talks about the fact that we all know that our body is an incredible machine at ensuring that everything goes well. So why do we think that our body is actually misbehaving or going wonky when it comes to fat? The body is also perfectly managing the fat stores. It does that by having something called a set weight point. And this is the weight that the body thinks you will function best at, whether at a size 4 or a size 24. The interesting thing is that your set weight point is 70% defined by genetics, okay? 70%. And other things such as stress, such as sleep, such as toxins, such as even viruses, okay? So this is like a temperature thermostat, which is very intricately controlled. The other thing about this is that the more we mess with it, like the more we try and change it, like with direct intervention, the more we sort of put it out of tune. Because what happens is that it says, okay, the weight is going below the set weight point. So now we need to bring it back into the correct range. So it will send messages to your hypothalamus. Your hypothalamus is the part of the brain that looks after your emotions, your body temperature, the hormones, etc. So the hypothalamus goes and says, hey, we want to eat, we want to eat, we want to eat. We're going to feel really cold, we're going to feel really cold. Oh my God, let's make her cranky. She's definitely going to go and have that pizza, right? So anybody who's felt terrible during the day dieting and then gone and had some binge eating stuff happen at night and then felt miserable about it, this is what is happening to your body. Okay?
Ameya to her hypothalamus. Shh, please.
Yeah, if only it would work like that. So basically, that's what's happening. And the more we try and override the hypothalamus, the more we try and override the set weight point, the more it struggles against us. And then what it says is, listen, this woman is constantly, or man, is constantly in this famine mode. So now let us increase our set weight point so that we have more stores, so that when they start acting weird again, we have more stores.
Correct.
Now, the other thing about our bodies is that because of our history and because of evolution, we are still far more in the space, our bodies are still far more in the space of store and hold than let go. So we are more attuned to weight gain than we are to weight loss. Okay.
Yeah.
So I thought this was really interesting, very much put in focus in health at every size. Okay. Then there is the obesity code. And here they talk about the calories in, calories out. Okay. And I think they explain it beautifully because in this whole calories in, calories out theme of things, the assumption is we are this mathematical formula that we put something in and, do the addition, do the subtraction, and something will come out. But it doesn't work that way because we have something called a metabolic rate. So basically what happens is, for example, let's say you're putting wood into the fire and the less wood you put, you assume the fire will stay burning longer. But what is actually happening in your body is that the metabolic rate is slowing down. So you're putting less wood, but the fire is also slowing down. And so the wood is burning more slowly, right?
Yeah, it's like when you're running low on petrol and you turn off the AC in the car.
Correct.
So that aur der tak chal jayega.
Correct. So what is turning off the AC for us? Feeling cold, feeling hungry, feeling low on energy, depression, anxiety,
Yes,
all of those things are, and it's basically just stressing out the system, right? So which is why we all have this thing that we do these diets and over a period of time, we find that the weight loss from the diets reduce, right? And then we all eventually hit that plateau.
Correct.
So this is all this calories in, calories out, not really being a thing. And then the other thing that happens is not all calories are equal. Okay. So for example, I had this teacher once tell my mom that, listen, if she likes chocolate so much, for lunch, just give her a Mars bar. No? It's the same number of calories. But it doesn't work that way.
Yeah, it doesn't.
Because, it isn't just about calories. It's also about the nutrition.
And that's one of the biggest problems with counting calories, like it's just like you just count the calories. Yes, to some extent it will stop you from eating too much of sugar or fat or whatever it is, but you can eat a lot of chapatis, but that's not necessarily going to be good for you.
No, exactly. So now look at this whole calorie in, calorie out model. So the your metabolic rate basically slowing down. And then, add to it what we just spoke about in terms of the set weight. So you see that your metabolic system slows down. Your set weight point is now, out of range. So the body is basically fighting you in every way to get back to that set weight point and more on a lower metabolism. So what is really happening is this whole dieting thing that we're doing is fucking our happiness.
And it just exacerbates the problem. It just
Exactly.
becomes like a vicious cycle.
Exactly. It becomes a vicious
Yeah.
cycle. Okay. Now, the third element to all of this is the hormones. So, body weight is actually a function of hormonal regulation, not of calorie in, calorie out.
Yes.
Okay. Where the main hormone is insulin over here. Why? Because insulin is the fat storage hormone. So what insulin does is when you eat, it says to your body that, listen, cells open up and take in the glucose and store it as fat. And when we need it, we'll, right? Now, up to the 70s, our whole meal plan was 3 meals a day with enough gap. Plus, most people would eat, they would start by 8 or something like that, and then they would finish eating by 7:30, 8 at night. Most households, right? With 3 meals a day and no snacking. I remember this, like my mom used to say.
Yeah, we never snacked as kids.
No snacking, etc. What is the meal plan now? And what do all our nutritionists put us on?
Oh, 6 meals a day.
6 meals a day.
Yeah.
So what is happening is now the insulin in the blood is constantly telling the cells, open up, store, open up, store. Insulin has to go out of the blood for the cells to take the fat out of the storage and use it for
Yeah.
stuff, right? If you're eating 6 meals a day and insulin gets activated by whether you're eating carbs or proteins or everything.
Anything.
Yeah. So the only thing insulin doesn't get activated by is fat. Now, who eats a whole spoon of coconut oil or ghee
Butter.
or, peanut butter? But
Butter.
actually, that's the only thing that doesn't activate insulin, you see? Anyways, so coming back to this whole thing, when insulin is constantly roaming around in your blood,
Yeah.
right, your fat cells are not releasing the fat
Yeah.
for the body to use.
Yeah.
And over a period of time, they start getting resistant because imagine someone yelling at you all the time. What will you do? You will stop listening to them. No.
Correct.
So that is what happens to our bodies. And that is where the insulin resistance develops. And then there's the cortisol, which is the stress hormone, because you're constantly putting your body under stress when you're not feeding it the way it wants to be fed. And all of this becomes a vicious cycle, which makes you lose weight. Now, mind, right? Because a lot of people will say, but we're thin people and we do the grazing diet and, we don't have a problem, etc., etc. Set weight point. First thing that we spoke about. Set weight point.
Also, I do genuinely think that different bodies operate differently. So what works for one body is not necessarily going to work for another body.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And that the problem is that a lot of these things that have been discovered for bodies that don't have insulin resistance or don't have a high set weight point or whatever it is, then they just put it on you and they're like, it's not working. Like, I'm starving myself. I'm working all the time. I'm exhausted and all I can think about is food. But I'm not losing weight.
Exactly.
Like, it's...
But now with all this science, do you understand why? And do you understand why what we are actually doing, what we are being taught, trained to do, which is the whole dieting and not eating intuitively and, is actually detrimental. It is actually causing weight gain.
And that's the thing, right? Because you'll see these people on Twitter, our lovely friends on Twitter, like that, I don't believe white privilege exists, proud to be a conservative, who was tweeting at us about how the CDC says obesity kills. I'm like, first of all, CDC is about communicable diseases. So first of all, wrong place, my friend, wrong place. Secondly, the American dietary establishment has finally, after years in 2015, put its hand up and said, yeah, sorry, we kind of fucked up. Because here is the thing. All this advice about cut meat and cut protein and cut fat from your diet, it all really goes back to this guy called Ansel Keys, who ran this big study at the University of Minnesota, which was supposed to be a 7-country study, and he's supposed to study 13,000 men across 7 countries. First of all, please notice men. Second of all, most likely they're all going to be white men because it was US, Japan and Europe. Okay, Japan to hai kam se kam. So these are two big problems. Secondly, he had this whole thing about this diet and heart disease have a relationship, right? So they put out these these guidelines of the American Heart Association saying that you have to cut back on saturated fats because it's the best way to fight disease. But the evidence is so bullshit because his study, first of all, has like there's this whole book, by the way, called the Big Fat Surprise by a woman called Nina. I cannot pronounce his last name. Nina Teicholz. Teicholz. We'll put it in the notes. So she's where I found out about this the first time, right? So the study was deeply problematic because of many reasons. First of all, he didn't choose countries randomly. His selection was not random. He chose the ones which were more likely to confirm his results, like Yugoslavia, Finland, and Italy, and excluded countries that already have low rates of heart disease, like France, Switzerland, Sweden, and West Germany.
Wow.
Right? Secondly, it's very hard to collect accurate nutrition data. So he ended up sampling the diets of only 500 men, right? Which is not a statistically significant sample. And a huge bunch of them, for example, in Greece, they barely ate any meat or cheese. But basically, he was sampling them during Lent, when you don't eat meat or cheese. Like, what the fuck, dude?
Holy cow. Really? Like, I mean, how...
And by the time this stuff was uncovered,
this is a study.
This has become This is a study that is the basis of the American Heart Association's recommendations from the 1970s onwards.
This is
it
BMI.
Is the basis, no, this is the basis of saturated fat causes heart disease. So cut fat from your diet.
My God.
And fat and meat when you will always obviously be replaced by carbs, because what else will you replace it with? You'll eat more bread. What else will you do? And there was like years of drama around this, and people fought it and blah 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 and all of this. They did lots of surveys in other parts of the world that would bunk it, but nobody listened, right? Because this guy Keys is he's like a very big mouthy guy, so he did this whole thing, and he had a lot of allies and stuff. So it basically worked out. And eventually, basically, what happened is instead of eating eggs and sausages for breakfast, you eat cereal and orange juice, which is basically sugar plus sugar.
Killer.
Right? Which is really, really bad for you. So what is really interesting now is that they took the same data as his analysis and they analyzed it, and they found that sugar is the highest correlation with heart disease, which now people are saying. And now, so also in 2005, the American, God knows what these associations are called. It's a nutrition advisory panel of the diet. It's called the Dietary Guidelines Advisory Community, which is part of all this diet and health space in the US. And they actually basically said, first of all, sugar is a problem. But the biggest thing that they said, which I think is amazing, and I'm reading directly from the New York Times here on this article. I will post the link. The panel also dropped a long-standing recommendation that Americans restrict their intake of dietary cholesterol from food like eggs and shrimp. A belated acknowledgement of decades of research showing that dietary cholesterol has little or no effect on the blood cholesterol levels of most people.
Correct.
So the reality is that, yes, you might have high cholesterol and that would correlate to heart disease, but eating egg yolks is not it. And my God, 99% of the nutrition of the egg is in the yolk. Stop throwing away your yolks, guys. Sorry. I am not a medical professional. This is just my ranty opinion because I didn't rant enough at the beginning of this conversation. So yes, if you have the chance, read The Big Fat Surprise. This is not the only study that she takes down. It is fascinating to see. I mean, nutrition science itself is deeply flawed.
Yeah.
Largely because it's very hard to have controls. To do scientific double-blind studies, stuff like that is really difficult. It relies on so much self-reporting. And like the thing is, if you take people out of their schedules and you put them all in some big facility, then their bodies will react to that.
Yeah.
So there's it's impossible to see.
No, but what was really interesting to me was the fact that only 5% of people who have actually lost weight are able to maintain that weight loss over a period of 5 years. Yeah. Okay. So that means 95% of people who lose weight actually gain the weight back. And not just that, they actually gain more weight because now their set point has gone up. And dude, that is my experience. You see why this whole thing made such an impact on me is because with all the crazy dieting that I've done over the years, I've always seen this, that I will lose the weight and then I will gain it back. And then I will actually gain more. And, just reading that and saying, oh my God, that explains my whole fucked up life, what I thought was fucked up life. And this is actual science.
Yeah.
It just put things into it was a shock, a rude shock to me that, listen, babe, you really need to go into this because obviously what you've been told is not necessarily true. So anyways, coming to that, are there any crazy diets that you've done?
Well, I'm pretty sure you've done this one too. It's our good friend Herbalife.
Oh my God, don't talk about Herbalife because it fucked my hormones. Anyway,
Probably fucked mine too. Because
Go ahead.
I did it when I was in first year college. So I was 18 years old. Perfect timing to do this. So I did Herbalife for I think 6 months or whatever. It didn't really work. It was disgusting. I hated it. Also, many years later, I think in 2008 or 9, I did another one whose name I can't remember. Yay. No free publicity for them. But yeah, there was Herbalife. There was some book called Protein Power that we tried to do as well. But mainly with me, it was just always people watching my food, me watching my food, constantly worrying. Cut this out, cut that out. Go to this nutritionist, go to that nutritionist. Or do this grazing diet, or do smoothies, or do that. Drink one coconut oil with salt and stand on one toe and
Ew.
stare at the moon. I don't know what the fuck. Like the kind of shit they used to keep doing. And I have to try and do the GM diet all the time as well, which is so bad for you. My God, the GM diet is so fucking bad for you, but nobody listens to that. And I did metabolic balance, which is the only diet that's ever actually worked for me, which was extremely expensive. But it was 10K, I think, for 3 or 4 months. But they made a battery of blood tests and then they sent it back to their German headquarters, where they sent me a list of the foods that I was allowed to eat. They were like, these are the foods that are good for you. And a lot of the foods that I regularly eat, like onions, were not on that list. And that's the thing. And their point was that to readjust your metabolism, you need to eat like this. And they had basically like it was a very complicated diet to follow because it was like every meal, like you couldn't mix 2 proteins in one meal. You had to have 3 different proteins every day. And you had to weigh all the food raw before you cooked it. And it was like really painful to do. I did it. I did it for 3 months. I lost 10 kilos. And I was really happy because I was never hungry.
That's
which
so
is the
important.
thing. I used to have so much trouble finishing the meals
That's
that they
nice.
gave me because it was like a solid amount of food. And the other thing though that they had, which was really, really key, they were like, if you don't do anything else, always do this. From the time you finish meal 1 to the time you begin meal 2, there has to be a minimum of 5 hours. And that's where it comes back to Jason Fung and the
Yes.
insulin, because basically
Absolutely.
that gives your body the time for the insulin to drop.
Yeah.
And then when you push that further, of course, you get intermittent fasting, which is definitely transformed my life and my relationship with food, because I used to my biggest problem with being on a diet is just that. Sorry, guys, there is a rant coming again. Not very organized today. So nutritionists.
Uh-oh.
They are the fucking worst. Because here's the thing. I get that I need to do X amount of calories or whatever it is to lose weight. Like, okay,
No, you don't.
Sidebar. No, I get that this is your theory.
Okay.
Sidebar, by the way, the other day, the last nutritionist I saw looked at me, she said, Acha, theek hai. Aapko na hum 1,000 calories daily denge. I'm like,
Are you
are
kidding?
you insane? Like, what? That is like that's starvation. Like 1,200 is starvation. Like, come on.
Wow.
But anyway, and so they never listen to you. Like, if you tell them, look, I don't like Karela, they will give you Karela 4 times. And I'm like, look, I understand that I can't get pizza and french fries in my diet that you're giving me as a nutritionist. But if you genuinely expect me to make a lifestyle change, you genuinely have to work with me.
Absolutely.
Which means, yes, you want me to eat Karela today, but please give me something I like tomorrow. No, Karela. Oh my God, I can't stand it. And they just fucking don't listen to you. Like, again, this woman, I told her, I said, look, I can't do 5 small meals a day. I live alone. I don't have a housekeeper. I don't have a wife. I don't have a mom sitting there and looking after all of this for me. It's just me.
Yeah.
I do not have the time or the cognitive space to think about, plan, measure, cook, pack 5 fucking meals a day. It's
I
not
know
possible.
you'll be doing only that, right? You
That's
won't
all I
do
do.
anything else.
And then when you are on those chuntu things, all you do is thinking about the food. You're like, 8:30 must eat almonds. Okay. Oh, 10 o'clock must eat apple. When is it? It's just like, fuck. Like, all you do is think about food. And like, to me, the thing that I love about metabolic balance is just that the thing that I love about intermittent fasting is that I don't think about food.
Correct.
I'm like, I'm kind of hungry, fridge mein kya hai? Kha lo. And I honestly have reached the point now where I basically eat one ginormous meal sometime between 12 and 2. And then I have like a chotu little meal at 7:30, and then I'm done. And I'm not hungry. Like, I'm a breakfast person, and I now eat breakfast for lunch and dinner, but I don't need to eat in the morning anymore. This whole idea of you have to eat in the morning is completely funded by Kellogg's. Well, okay, no, that's a bit of a conspiracy theory, I know. But the point is, it is funded by capitalism. And always remember that capitalism greatly profits from us hating our bodies.
Absolutely.
So capitalism will tell you that you're ugly because you don't look like this girl, but you have this medicine, so then you can look like this girl. Give me your money for that. Oh, it didn't work. That's because of this. Here, try this medicine. Have you tried these elastic pants that are $150 and you can't breathe in, but will give you a svelte silhouette except for where you bulge out of the top of it?
And we thought we'd grown out of corsets, huh?
Right? I mean, Spanx. I own Spanx. I have worn them exactly once. And yeah, no, it just, I mean, I had a friend in school. We were 16 years old, and she was wearing this, she was not even fat. She was just really curvy. She had hips, she had butt, she had boobs. She was hot as fuck. All the boys were like, ah. And her mother, I'm assuming it was her mother, but maybe it was her. She was wearing a freaking full body corset under her dress. I gave her a hug and I'm like, why is she so hard? Right?
God.
And I realized that in that moment, and I was like, I'm the fat one and I'm not doing this.
Yeah.
But sadly, that moment of insight left me and then came back 15 years.
But you know, you remind me of that quote that I've seen, and I really like that this whole control on diet is not about weight as much as it is controlling female behavior and keeping them obedient.
I believe that quote is from my signature, which is a quote that I got out of...
Really? It's in your signature? No
I
way.
think so. Okay, let me read it out.
Okay.
And then I'll tell you. I got it out of Sophie Hagen's Happy Fat because she quotes it, but it's
There you go.
originally
That's where I'm
Naomi
reading it.
Wolf in The Beauty Myth. And she says, a culture fixated on female thinness is not an obsession about female beauty, but an obsession about female obedience. Dieting is the most potent political sedative in women's history. A quietly mad population is a tractable one. Let me repeat that last line. A quietly mad population is a tractable one.
Yeah.
Bang fucking on. Because if you have no time to think about anything other than your waist or your skin color or your body hair or your head hair or your makeup or your nails or what food you have to eat or somebody else, where do you have time to say, hey, I should have rights to, make decisions about my own body?
No, and darling, it's not just about yourself, right? Because you are the caregiver and the homemaker. So you're thinking about your husband, and your husband shouldn't get a heart attack. So your husband's cholesterol, and your husband should be eating all of these things. And you're thinking about your kids, and your kids should be eating this or not eating this, or this is healthy or not. So basically, you're obsessed with food from morning to night. You're listening to programs. You're reading magazines. There are studies which are contradicting themselves and falling all over the place, contradicting themselves. And that's all you're thinking about all the time. So where are you going to think about anything else?
How will we plan the revolution?
Anyway, so that's the feminist in
But
us
no,
that is
tell
coming
me
out.
about-
But let me
Yes,
tell you,
my feminist shows a lot. It's like, that your slip is showing. I'm like, my feminist is always showing, baby. But yes, tell me about your diets.
So I was on a diet since I was 5 years old.
What?
Yes, darling.
I think I only got it at like 9.
No, I was on a diet when I was 5 years old, maybe younger to that. So I remember we had this male servant in house help in Abidjan. And he used to love me. He used to call me his princesse. And he used to...
Ooh la la.
Yes, my français est très bien. And then he would...
Mais oui, madame.
And then he would, so I only wanted mashed potatoes and fried eggs. So my mother would give him like this whole meal plan, okay? And we would come home and he would say, yes, what would you like to eat? And I would say mashed potatoes and fried eggs. And he'd make it. And my mother would come back and scold the shit out of him because she'd be like, I had told you this is what she needs to eat and not mashed potatoes and fried eggs. Anyways, I mean, the thing is that I was on boiled vegetables and no butter and no sugar and all of that when I was a kid. The problem was that I would watch my brother eating everything, the ice cream and the dahi with chini, and he could have 4 chapatis, I could only have 2. He could have double helpings. I could only have 1. So that was like a real mindfuck for me as a child. Because, why was I being denied all these things? Like, what had I done wrong? And I used to steal food from the fridge. So if Musa wouldn't give me the food, I would steal food from the fridge. And I used to love cheese. And oh my God, cheese over there, because you'd get all the French cheese and all that. So I would love the cheese and I would love the nuts and, of course, then whatever ice cream, etc. So it was this really warped relationship with food, because then when we'd go out, my mother would be like, okay, now you can eat anything you want, okay, because we're out. So then I'd bloody want to eat the whole table, man. I couldn't control. Okay. So this is when I was 5 years old. Then when I was 13, I was put on the American Weight Watchers diet.
Oh.
Okay. Which was not so bad. It was much better than my previous life of being denied everything, because here at least I could eat stuff. And what was really heartbreaking for me was that the dietitian really scolded my mother, because she said, you've been giving her toast with ketchup. Because my mom was like, you can't have butter, you can't have cheese, you can't have da-da-da. So toast with ketchup. And she says, how can you give her ketchup? That's sugar.
Yeah.
You should have ideally given her butter and cheese. So here, the messaging I'm hearing is that my mother's made all the wrong food decisions for me, so caused more hatred, more problems. I went on to stealing nuts from the fridge and blaming it on my maid, because, it was just this really warped relationship. There was even a point in time where I had nighttime eating cravings. So I would sort of sleepwalk and I would go to the fridge. And this is when I was an adult. Okay. This is when I was 24, 25, 26. I had just been on Shikha Sharma's diet to lose all the weight for my marriage. And I had lost a lot of weight, but then the weight started piling on. But I continued the dieting and all of that. And I found that I would be opening up the fridge, taking out the bread and butter, and I would actually literally find myself in the middle of putting butter on bread. And believe me, at 2:00 in the night, when you've sleepwalked to the fridge to eat, you have zero control to stop yourself. You'll eat namkeen, you'll have anything and sundry. So Herbalife, you've mentioned. I've had a diet where I, for 3 days, ate only pineapple because it supposedly cuts your fat. Cabbage soup diet for 1 week. All of these kind of things.
And it's so bad for you. Also, by the way, just a side note on this self-control thing. The most important thing you need for self-control, right? Because basically, what is self-control? It is your body is trying to react a certain way, and then you're burning extra energy in your brain to stop it, right? So you need, the most important thing you need for that is energy, which comes from food.
Yeah.
So if you are stuck trying to be self-controlled about food, you're really fucked. In short.
Not just that, and I'm a neuroscience freak, right? I love all the neuroscience stuff. Oh yes.
What?
I told you the brain-based coaching that I've
Okay.
certified in.
Yeah.
I've read a lot of books before that on neuroscience, etc. There's this amazing book, Your Brain at Work by David Rock, which is what got me on this path.
We'll.
Yeah. No, I'm not. But what I'm trying to say to you is on this decision making, okay? Basically, the more decisions you make, the more tired your brain gets.
Correct.
So if you make a willpower-based decision which denies something from your life, you cannot make the second one. 50% drop or something like that. And then the third one, to practically impossible. So that is what happens.
That's the thing. But yes, I mean, all my journey with food has not been so bad. I mean, one of the things that I got insight into at some point was that my relationship with food is deeply emotional, which it is for a lot of people, of course. But when I'm happy, I eat. When I'm sad, I eat. When I'm angry, I eat. It's almost as if the food will give me see, when you eat certain kinds of food, they trigger the same things as happiness, right? It's the same endorphin release that you get, the same dopamine shot.
Yeah.
So it became like this was a reliable dopamine shot, as opposed to people who might let me down or hurt me or mock me or whatever else it is that happens. So it boils down to understanding that. I mean, it's not like it's changed. I do have a deeply emotional relationship with food, and it affects a lot of my eating and stuff like that. But it's just knowing that itself is really helpful. Because when I'm sitting here and I'm like, oh my God, I really want to eat McDonald's, then I'm like, okay, hold on. Question 1, are you bored? No. Okay. Question 2, are you sad? Are you lonely? Are you tired? Are you frustrated? Are you hormonal? Oh God, hormonal. So you know what? Check all those things. Is there something else you want to do? Would you like to go and talk to somebody else? Go for a walk, drink some water, go and have a conversation with another person about something else. Is this like just try all of these things and come back? And if you're still hungry in 20 minutes, then please by all means eat your burger. But you, however, have had a more almost like a more literal healing relationship with food, no?
Yeah, so that was really interesting. It happened somewhere in 2006, 2007. I used to have these terrible backaches, which used to actually land me in the hospital, and figured out that they were actually because of acidity. And I did, yeah, and just the simplest fix cured me of my backaches. I used to have khana before 7 o'clock. And I've said it before that I love salads and stuff. So I would have a salad or maybe a soup if it's winter before 7 o'clock. And it cured my backaches, literally. And not just my backaches, but I would get like a cough and cold almost every month. It cured that. So that's when I realized, oh, food has this effect on my body. So then I started reading more, researching more, etc. And since then, I've stopped meeting nutritionists completely. I just do my own thing. So whenever I have pain or discomfort or anything else in my body, I usually approach food and see what happens. So the next thing that happened was in 2010 when I discovered John Gabriel. And he talks about, eat whatever you want. You want that slice of pizza, have the slice of pizza, but have raw, like 70% of your meal as raw foods at the same time, okay? He even says that, of course, take off the toppings of the pizza and mix it, but then, hey, I want the bread, right? I want the slice. So anyways, I started doing that. And that really helped my body. Unfortunately, I was doing it in Belgium where there was also the chocolate triggers and also the cheese and all of that. So no real weight loss, but I could feel my body being more healthy.
That's the thing, right? That it's not necessarily about weight loss.
Correct.
Right? Because I feel like on IF, when I'm not IFing properly, like I have been this week, I just feel like I'm so leaden and heavy and just...
Yeah.
And then I've reached a point also where my body is just like not interested in eating greasy food. I went to this wedding and it was like 3 days of shadi ka khana, which, listen, sorry guys, but like I would rather eat nice Tamil shadi ka khana because it's just like nice food, ghar ka khana. But this food is so heavy, so greasy, pools of oil on everything, and I'm just like... I had like pulao because I was like, I had pulao, I had naan with one little bit of dal.
Curd rice.
Bhai, kya kare yaar? My body was just like, bitch, you put that in me? I'm gonna kill you. I'm gonna cut you.
Yeah. So that's the wonderful thing, And I met this nutritionist actually in 2013, and I swear she's so amazing. I loved her because she completely took all the things that I like and included them in what I was eating. And she taught me certain guidelines. So for example, I have, at least in my ghar ka khana, there's no wheat. There's ragi, jowar, bajra and combinations of that, but there's no wheat, right? She says have 300 grams of vegetables, whether cooked or raw. So what was good about her was that she helped me understand the Indian food and, how to eat better with the Indian food. So she was the first one who told me that, listen, ghee mein koi problem nahi hai. Butter mein koi problem nahi hai. If you want a snack, have cheese and lettuce, for example, So these have now become guidelines.
Yes.
That I follow. Okay.
Yes, I also have these guidelines where I try to avoid eating grains, which is not really very helpful. But I'm not allowed to eat grains. I tried not to eat grains more than once a day.
Yeah.
I try to put bajra and all, but my maid is like, Didi, bajre ki roti to thand mein khate hain. And I'm like, please just make it, yaar, please. You have a gehu ka roti, but please make me bajra ki roti, right?
The whole point is you have food that satisfies you as well as nourishes you.
Yes.
You are not forcing yourself not to eat things, and you're not punishing yourself.
Absolutely.
Now with the whole intermittent fasting, because I do up to 72 hours of fasting, and people go berserk. No, they go berserk. They're like, oh my God, you won't have any energy. And I'm like, dude, it's like I'm on a high by the third day,
Oh my God, yes. Like the mornings when I'm on IF, I have so much energy. I need less sleep. It's like my automatic 9 hours goes down to 7, sometimes 6.
For me 5, 6.
Kuch nahi. And it's like not like alarm or tired. Why do you just have all the energy in the world? And then the next time you eat 3 meals, you're just like...
Yeah. And the interesting thing about intermittent fasting is because I had learned all this intuitive eating,
Yeah.
I really learned to follow my body. So the first thing I did was 12 hours, 16 hours happened easily, then 24, then 48, then 36, then 48, then 72. So it's not like I went, boop, I read the book and I was fasting for 72 hours. I really listened. And as I was telling you today, it's been now almost 4-5 weeks that I've not been able to do my fasting properly. And I just connected the dots this morning that it's been the same 4-5 weeks that I've been stressed out about something to do with my finances. And therefore I'm not able to, I have these cravings of, and I'm ordering food from outside. Yet, compared to three meals a day or 5 meals a day and having to be obsessed about food, okay, I'm having 1.5 meals a day these days, but within a smaller window. And I still know that there's less inflammation in my body and my body has more energy and so on and so forth. So food does heal.
Speaking of cravings.
Oh God.
So as we record this, I might be slightly hungover and had not had much to eat today other than toast and eggs. So I'm kind of hungry, which is why it's been really hard for me because this woman has said mashed potatoes like fucking 50 times.
Once.
So cravings. Potato, 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 potato.
Ameya, move on.
Red wine in the winter, toast, buttered toast.
Oh my God.
Pita chips, mac and cheese. Oh, I crave mac and cheese. Once I paid an outrageous amount of money, some 600 rupees to just order mac and cheese and from some bloody restaurant. And it was like, okay, it had mayonnaise in it. I wanted to slap them. I just make, anyway. Curd rice, grilled cheese. Okay, I'm just going to stop.
No, why? Potatoes again?
Well, there's French fries, there's roast potatoes, there's mashed potatoes, there's well, there's, want to keep going? There's wedges.
No. So stop. I need to go as well. So for me, it's cheese, chicken, chocolate. And any combination of that, honestly.
You mean, what if you had chocolate sauce on chicken cheese?
I could have it.
Okay.
I swear.
I'm going to conduct some experiments and report back, guys.
Totally. The other thing that I really crave is pizza. But I think it's because of the smell of the oregano and the cheese. Like, that sets me off more than anything else. Sweets. I have such a sweet tooth. Oh my God.
That's because you're so sweet.
Oh. Well, the one thing that does work for me is I do like 70% plus chocolate, and it's supposed to have like really good stuff in it. So, good for me. I can crave and I can. I
mean, also like potatoes, for example, they're a great source of potassium. No one talks about that.
Vodka?
French fries and vodka. Okay, guys. Just to be clear, we are not advocating that you try to get your daily potassium intake from French fries and vodka. Okay? Just to be clear.
Actually, we're not advocating anything in this episode. We're just telling you our food journey. We're just telling you about the science that we've learned behind it.
And we want to encourage everybody to go out there and ask questions. Don't just be like, everyone says. Why did everyone say just do a chota Google, yaar?
Yeah.
It's really not that hard in this day and age.
And I'm sure you realize that between the two of us, between you and me, for example, toast and butter are not my cravings. It's not like I'm going to go and eat half a loaf of bread toasted and with butter.
There is literally drool in my mouth right now.
No, but I do know a friend who does that. That's her craving. So you have to also think about what works for you. And I think that's what we're trying to say in this whole...
Butter. Thoda garam karke so the butter ke
God, this girl needs to do her rant at the beginning of the episode and in totality. Because
this is not a rant. This is a fantasy.
Yeah, but do you realize you just need to keep talking? So anyway, it looks like she and I are going to have dinner after this because how are we going to avoid eating?
It's going to be pizza, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to be pizza.
Yes. So,
all right. Well, challenge for this episode is a lovely one. It is Pallavi. Why don't you do it?
Yeah. So, what we would like to do over the next 2 weeks is eat something we love in mindfulness, completely savoring it, listening or feeling our body as we are eating it, and actually see how the taste changes as you get more and more full. It's a really interesting experience. It's the intuitive eating that Linda Bacon talks about. I've done it. You've done it, I think.
Yeah.
And it is, do it and share with us.
Just eat something you love just give yourself permission to do it without the guilt. And
No guilt.
pay attention to it. And you're absolutely right. You'll suddenly reach a point where you're like, I have done this with French fries, guys. I've been like, nahi pet bhar gaya, koi baat nahi.
It stops tasting so good. It's amazing.
All right, that's it. Thank you guys, as always, for listening. You can find us on social at Fatso Podcast, FATSOPODCAST. That's on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and Gmail. That's right, fatsopodcast@gmail.com. Do write to us. Do let us know what you're thinking.
And post your challenge. Post your having done the challenge with hashtag #FatsoChallenge.
Yes. And we really hope that this episode is giving you guys a good start to the new year because it is New Year's resolution time.
Happy New Year.
Among other things. Just remember, this year try to resolve to not hate food.
To love yourself. Just love yourself.
Also love food, guys. Food is babe.
Love yourself. Love yourself. Love yourself.
Potato.
Okay, bye.